Coming into the drama, there wasn't really much of an expectation. The only reference I had with Indian dramas or films were a couple of films I watched in the past. Those films had dancing, singing, and a lot of happiness and laughter, sadness, all of these emotions and dramatic scenes that came along with it. But when I was watching Made in Heaven, and through the first episodes, I saw the tears. I saw the situation Tara and Karan is into, the cultural revelations, the gender issues, the political strife, all of these factors that make up a society and the people around them through their lens, through their hardships, through their own selfish ways, and even their sacrificial ways. All of these things, the poverty, all of these factors that make up Made in Heaven made me realize that this drama is different from everything else that I've watched. And I really love it. What made me stay and watch the whole season of Made in Heaven were the social situations of each episode. For each episode, we get a client and we go through the problems they have towards the marriage or how the wedding is presented. Then we get a different side of situations and events happening to our two main characters, Karan and Tara. Now, for every episode, we get a glimpse of what is it like for people old getting married, or young people getting married, or political marriages, or people that are after for money, or people who don't really love each other, and people who really, really love each other, but their parents are being weird about it. I got to see the fact that on different events, that the marriage isn't just about two people. It's about the family of the two people and not necessarily just them. It goes to show that really Asian families or Asian love stories isn't really about just the two people. It's about the family. And this is much prevalent to any other culture, basically Asian culture that gives a lot of importance to marriage. And it's just eye-opening and really revealing at that point, and I really love that sense of difference between the Western culture, where usually Western cultures are about the two people itself. But when you go back to the Eastern culture, the Asian culture, it's just mostly about the families itself. It's not, the wedding isn't about the couple. It's just like the centerpiece. Through that centerpiece, there's a lot of background things happening, especially together with the parents. It's just crazy, and I love that. Now let's talk about Tara. Tara is one half of the owner of the wedding planning agency. Her background is that her husband is rich and her husband's family is very rich. They own a lot of different companies and they run them, and they are one of the top families, probably one of the top families in the story. Going into the detail, her whole circle, her best friend, her friends are all rich. Now, she wasn't necessarily rich all throughout the story. Her background deeper into the story was that her history, her side of the family, isn't really that rich. She actually married into richness because of her rich husband. Now, what I like about the character itself is that it's different from what we thought she was at the start. At the start, we get a lot of scenes of her being in that rich family, running a good household, running parties, and being in a very strong position where it feels like she's been rich for a long time. But in fact, the detail of her story was that she actually snaked her way into Adil, which is her husband right now. Adil had another girlfriend or fiance back in the past, and this girl, Tara, snaked her way into their relationship and kind of stole Adil away from the fiance. So at that point, we see there's a kind of juxtaposition of her present, or how the drama showed her, and how her real story is. We see her at the forefront being like rich and into being that social class. But yet in hindsight, what she actually did for that was actually climb into that situation. And I love that she is presented as someone strong, someone who has dreams when she was younger, and someone who actually did a lot of things that are wrong and still tried to be that different person. She evolved from someone who had nothing to someone who had a lot, and then someone totally different. I like the path of her character, her evolution that came across from episode 1, her backstories, and at the end. It's a whole lot of different. The problems regarding Tara's relationship go even worse when Faiza comes in, her best friend, and tries to steal her man away from him. Now, Faiza is a princess, so she is rich from when she was younger and up until now. The problem was Faiza didn't really have her own money. Everything came from her father. So at that point, we see that Faiza doesn't really have control over her finances, and she feels like she is in distress because her husband also left her. So there's a little bit of conflict within that story. So it acts out at the start that Faiza is kind of the damsel in distress. Now we come in with Adil. Adil is the husband who cannot for the life of him stay away from girls who are in trouble or damsels in distress. He first started going out with Tara because he saw how distraught Tara was, her story, her being like the victim of an office politics thing that happened where he was in the video and Adil was also in the video, something of that sort of scandalous nature. And he was entrapped at that moment where Tara was feeling, tired and feeling insecure and feeling really cornered. And being Adil being Adil, he was instantly attracted to that sort of distressing moment for Tara. I like the strangeness of the characters of Faiza and Adil. Faiza was going on and on about how crazy in love she was with Adil, and she doesn't really care about what Tara thinks, and she sometimes cares about what Tara thinks and doesn't really care about Adil anymore. And this back and forth thing with Faiza, because she was talking to a psychologist, and her illusions and delusions, it's just crazy. And I was entertained about this character being antagonistic and at the same time really insane and then really rational. That weird moment that she had, actually always scenes of her being in that weird state, it's just really entertaining and I love watching it. Now we go to Karan, the other owner of the wedding planning agency. Karan's troubles stems from the fact that he actually owes a lot of money from different people, specifically that weird guy that came into the story. The reason for his debt was actually because he owed a lot of money for his previous business, which is a bar. I get that this usual trope of a male lead owing a lot of money to different places or having gambling issues and all of these themes. I get that, and it's nothing surprising. But then when I go deeper into the story, into the episodes, I discovered that the character is an LGBT, particularly he is gay. One, in India, if you are gay, it is criminalized and penalized and really looked down upon. People die in all sorts of situations because they are gay. And them putting a main character right up front and center, being gay, being proud about it, doing gay stuff. All of these things made me want to watch more because it's really complex. And there's this period where we see scenes after scenes that Karan is trying to be gay or he's trying to be just himself. And he can't even do that because there's a lot of oppositions between politics and people and even the police and other people who don't like that fact. And even we see him sleeping with a client and that issue, and then there's another client who found out he was gay and the people found out he was gay, and there's a lot of drama that went through just because he has a different gender. That's the whole issue of it. It's not because he killed someone or he robbed someone, raped someone, not of all of these criminal things, but just because he falls in love with a guy, he sleeps with a guy. That's the only reason. And it's kind of an eye-opener within their culture, within the Indian culture itself, when you watch the whole drama. Another thing that I'm pleasantly surprised about was the fact that Karan is gay and is actually in an Asian drama. Now, we have a lot of Asian dramas in different countries, and we rarely see a gay character. If we do see a gay character, it'll be on its own show, it'll be on its own drama. It's not going to be one of those mainstream ones. It's going to be front and center, and it's not going to be part of any of the actual drama involved. Or even if it was part of the main drama, it's going to be a side character. The LGBT character will just be going along as a supporting character to the main character. We never see a main character up front and center in an Asian drama where it is paired with a straight character and the whole drama revolves around the two of them and there's no split. There's always just the two of them, and I really, really like that. I give this a rating of 5 out of 5. There are a lot of things that I've learned by watching the drama in India's culture, in its society, the people, and the poverty, and the marriages and weddings that go with it. It's a lot of distress, a lot of happiness, a lot of love, and a lot of hope. It's just really fun to watch. Particularly about homosexuality or the LGBT community, I've learned that before it was criminalized and people are dying and people are imprisoned because of the fact that they are different from other people. Now, that learning itself was really good for me. It was such an eye-opener, and I didn't really know much about what homosexuality or the LGBT people are going through in India. And I like the drama for giving me that lens, that opportunity to discover. Another thing that I liked was the fact that brides are sometimes sold off as currency for getting a good marriage in paper or being in a good marriage in the eyes of the people. I like the fact that we see that there's a lot of different politics and there's a lot of different things that happen between a marriage, and you will see in the drama that each and every couple, each and every episode is different because they have certain different situations, different issues that is heartwarming, is tiring, it's exhausting, and it's all a lot of these hard and good emotions. It's just all about love at the end of the day. And sometimes it's not about love. Sometimes it's about money, and it's crazy like that. And I enjoyed the whole gamut, the whole episodes, and the whole thing. Another thing that I liked about the drama was the fact that they showed sex scenes. They are not afraid to show different sexual situations between the different characters and sleeping with different other characters. And they introduced us, or they gave us a meaning that sex is actually very vital in a relationship. It what makes and breaks a relationship. Even though it's in a gay relationship, a straight relationship, or any kind of relationship that involves partners. Though I did give this a 5 out of 5, there are things that I didn't like, particularly the character of Jazz. What I didn't really like in her character was the fact that her storylines revolve around her brother being a druggie, and she has to find her brother and bring him back home. Now, when we get deeper into her storyline, it's not really about her, it's more about her druggy brother, and I don't really like that issue. Also, the fact that she already left the agency and we're still getting to know more about her. I thought when she was out the door, she was completely out of the door. Usually that is what happens, and then we focus on the different characters, the main characters of the story, which is Karan and Tara. If anyone deserves more screen time, I believe it's Shivani. She is a founder of the agency, but not necessarily a partner. She is a single mother, and she's trying to make it work for her child. And there's a lot of storylines and things that could have worked, with her, especially when she went to the rivaling company, which is Harmony, I believe. There's just more scenes that we could have gotten from her, especially from a different perspective with Harmony, a rivaling agency. It's just more interesting for me to see more of her rather than Jazz, who feels like she's in a whole new world, and kind of like Jasmine, whole new world, Jazz. What I also didn't like about the drama was the summaries at the end of each episode. The photographer comes in and tells us the heartaches, the pains that the people went through from the first scene down to the last scenes. And he explains all that in a very melodramatic, poetic-like manner. And it's nice, his voice is nice, it's great, but I just didn't like a summary. I spent the whole 40 minutes or 50 minutes on the couch watching it. I was a good student. I knew what happened from the first and to the last, and I don't need to be told what happened again. I could just rewind again if I missed something. So them telling me that, it just, I know it was supposed to feel like it's dramatic, a big ending for a very dramatic scene, a dramatic episode, but it didn't work for me, and I just really hate it, and I wish they cut it. My recommendation is definitely watch it. There are about 9 episodes with 15 minutes on each one. The storylines, the characters are all very interesting. They have difficult, different, and other social issues and motivators, and you would really enjoy watching them. The drama in itself reminded me much of Grey's Anatomy, especially the bits about sleeping with each other and then sleeping with other people bit. So that kind of reminds me of it. But in terms of the actual business, the industry, it's more of like The Wedding Planner in J-Lo's movie. So there's something to that. And yeah, it's really enjoyable to watch. If you found this video helpful and enjoyable, to give me a like. If you want to see more reviews on Asian drama TV series and films in the future, don't forget to hit that bell button and subscribe. Our word for the day is Sangit. Sangit is where the pre-event of weddings happen. It usually is the beginning of parties. It loosely translates to "some together." That's it.